Hey, my fourth grade friends, it's Symmetry Week. And symmetry, if you guys watched the book, you watched me reading the book, Seeing Symmetry, you would have learned about symmetry, and probably from earlier lessons that you had with me, we talked about symmetry, where the symmetry is the same on both sides. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about a different kind of symmetry called radial or rotational symmetry, where something is the same, but it's the same as the object rotates around. If you got a chance to look, we are going to be making a project today that has radial symmetry that is inspired by some Mexican art. And back and even still today, there are Mexican artists who create art. They're not trained artists, but they create beautiful things to be sold at marketplaces. And one of the things that Mexican artists are known for is their folk art mirrors that they make out of tin. And so if you got a chance to look on the Canvas page, I put some examples of some of the Mexican folk art mirrors made by the Mexican people. So all you're going to need today is these two handouts, and maybe an extra sheet or two of copy paper. Now, if you have a, like in your parents' kitchen, if you have a bowl that fits inside the piece of paper, you're more than welcome to trace that and cut it out. I wasn't sure if you had access to circle templates, so if you don't, you can print this out and we can just go ahead and use this for the project. And then this is some extra circles that we'll need. So what you can do first is, if you have this, is we are going to cut out this circle. And when we cut it out, we want to be really careful to kind of cut it out as neatly and nicely as we can. Probably when you cut it out, there is going to be that little bit missing because I think it extended beyond the part of the paper that the computer can see, but that's okay. So I'm just carefully cutting along the black line, and I'm taking my time. Alrighty. So there is my circle. Now what we're going to do is we are going to fold the circle into quarters, which means we're going to fold it twice. We're going to fold it in half one way, and then we're going to fold it in half the other way. So the other thing that will happen is it will allow us to see if our circle is as round as we think it is. So you want to kind of line up the edges, and then we can kind of see, oh, there's this little part right here. I don't know if you can see it, I'll hold it up, that's kind of sticking beyond. And so what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to trim that now so it's nice and even, because we want this to be a perfect circle, or as perfect as it can be. And then now that I folded it the one way, I'm going to now fold it up the other way. And I'm just going to check for any overhanging paper, but otherwise it looks good. So I think, let me check this way again, I think we are ready to roll. All right, so the next thing that we need to look for is on the second piece of paper I gave you, it says circle for mirror. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut out this circle, because Mexican mirrors have a mirror in the middle, and then they have a radial design around the mirror. So we are going to carefully also cut out this circle. Just like that. So take a few minutes, cut out this circle, and then show you the next step. All right, so now we have this circle cut out, and we are going to do the same thing we did for our other circle, where we are going to fold this in half. We're going to line up the edges. It's like we're making a little taco here. And that looks good. There's no paper overhanging, and then I'm going to fold it in half this way. And it looks good. All right, so if you'll notice, see this plus here, this plus sign? What we are going to do is we are going to line up these plus signs with the plus sign on this circle. So I don't know if you can see with the shadow, but I'm going to line up this vertical line with this vertical line, and then this horizontal line with this horizontal line. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it gently in place, and I'm going to just trace around with my pencil. And if you need, normally at school, we have friends who lend a helping hand for this. And if you need a helping hand, maybe ask a brother or sister or a mom or dad. And then as you can see, I kind of went off track a little bit. But when you trace your circle, when you're done tracing your circle, you should see that it should look like exactly in the middle, and you should have the same amount of space from the edge of the circle to the edge of the other circles, okay? If you don't, if it's a little bit cattywampus, that's okay. Just erase and then reposition, all right? We're not gonna need this circle anymore. Well, actually we will later on. So maybe just set that aside. So what we are going to do is we are not gonna draw anything in this area, because this area is going to have the mirror over top of it. But we are going to draw in this little section right here. So for some inspiration for that, on the other sheet of paper, I had given you guys some different shapes, okay? And one other thing that you could do, if you would like to, is you could also cut out this circle here. I will show you real quick. So if you want to, I'll give you a second. Let's cut out this circle, and I'll show you one other thing that you could do if you want to. Okay, so I cut out this extra circle, and I'm gonna do the same thing as I did with the other circles, where I'm gonna kind of match up the edges. And then I'm gonna check, looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna fold it in half this way. Looks pretty good, okay? And you see the plus sign. Then what I can do is I can also line up this vertical line with, and you can see that's not lined up, so I'm turning it so that these vertical lines are lined up. And then I'm also gonna turn it so that the horizontal lines are lined up. So there we go. And then what you can do is you can trace around this line, the outer side, the outer perimeter of this circle, and I'll kind of show you. This is not totally necessary, but it's kind of nice, and you'll see why in a little bit when we talk about designing. Just take your time. Sometimes it's a little tricky. Tracing around the outside. Okay, back to the beginning. Voila. And then we can kind of see where I went off track a little bit. All right, so now we also have this outer ring, which will help us to keep our shapes in line. So what we are going to do is we are going to concentrate on this circle is divided into quarters. There's 4 quarters. We are going to design one of the quarters, and then what we do in this quarter is going to have to take place in this one, and this one, so that it is radially symmetrical. All right. So here's what that looks like. We can almost put a big X in the middle there, because we don't need to worry about doing anything in this space. So now I'm going to think about, and I'm going to look at my shapes, and I'm going to think about, the reason I drew this here was, do I want to have like a little border here? So do I want to have shapes that sort of go along this border, or not? And so Or maybe do I want to draw shapes that go up to that line as well. All right, so now we're going to think about designing this 1/4 out of the 4/4 of your Mexican mirror. So I'm going to look at some of the shapes. Sometimes what I like to do is we could even think about where we draw. Maybe I'm just going to draw a circle there. And then what I'm going to do is I came in about that far from this edge, so I'm going to come in about this far from this edge. Oops. I need to move it over just a little bit. It's okay if it's not exactly perfect. So I have a circle on this end, circle on this end. Then maybe I want to do a circle kind of in the middle here. And then maybe I'm going to do a triangle. And a triangle. All right, so that's my border here. So I'll just show you guys how this kind of works is, so then what I'm going to do is I need to transfer this border from here over to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my paper in half. And you probably can't see this through, but I can see my pencil lines through the paper. And so what you're going to do is if you have a pair of just your student kid scissors, you're going to take this flat part of the scissor, and what you're going to do is you're just going to rub it where you have drawn. So I'm rubbing where the circle, and then I see the triangle, and then I'm rubbing on the circle, the triangle, and the circle. And you want to press rather hard. Now, you probably can't see this, but you can kind of faintly see it, but I can see it. And so what that did was that transferred the graphite from the pencil onto the paper. So I'm able to just trace around those lines. They're really faint, but I can see them. And so that way it's helping me to actually draw exactly. Ta-da! All right, so then I was able to transfer that. Now I'm just gonna go over my lines again, just a little bit to make sure I have enough graphite on them. And then can you guess what I'm gonna do? You guessed it, we're gonna fold the paper again. So now I'm gonna transfer what's here onto here. So again, I'm gonna fold the paper in half. I'm gonna take my scissor and I'm rubbing really nice and hard on top of where I drew. And I'm getting a quick check. Yep, I can see my lines. So then I'm going to transfer over those lines with my pencil. Okay, and then the good news is I only have one more quarter to go. So again, I might just draw around that just one more time. Normally you like your pencil to be nice and sharp, but for this it works. It's nice if the pencil is just a little bit dull. And then I'm folding the paper in half again. And I am pushing with the back of the scissor. And I can see my lines. Oops, the one line I can't see very well is just the top part of that circle. So I'm going to give it another little rub. Sometimes if you can't see it, if you just rub it again, now I can really see it. So there's my circle, my triangle, my circle. Now, you of course will come up with your own ideas or your own design. So I chose shapes, but there wouldn't be anything wrong with drawing a zigzag. And you would start here and end it here. Maybe you draw a wavy line. Maybe you draw a different shape. Maybe you draw however you want to design it is perfectly fine. So there is now this little outer border. Now I'm going to think about this space right in here. And I'm going to look at my shapes that I have going on, and maybe I'm going to draw a triangle right there. And then maybe I'm going to draw a triangle inside that triangle. Maybe I want to, I'm trying to think for a second. And that's okay to sometimes sort of wonder, what shall I do next? If I don't know what I want to add next, you can also just go ahead and transfer the one thing that you drew if you're really sure that you like it. So now I'm just going to then I'm going to fold it in half. I can see that really well, so I'm going to draw that. And then, last but not least, and you can see this has radial symmetry because what's going on here transfers to here, to here, to here. Maybe I want to put, I have an idea. So maybe I'm going to put another triangle there, and then another triangle there. And I'm also going to put triangles within triangles. I'm going to put a circle on top of there, a circle on top of there. Maybe I want to put a heart shape that fits in there. And so I'll straighten up a little bit. Heart shape that fits in there. Maybe I'm just going to put one there like that. Remember, I can only draw within this quarter right here. Maybe and maybe I like it just like this. And I'm not sure of any other details. So what I can do, same thing I'm going to do as before. I'm going to, now this time I'm going to need to rub all over this whole space here because I added a lot of details. And if you, when you're transferring it, and let's say you can't see some of the lines, you can just rub over it again. But, oops, I can see it. So this line comes down here. Here's the circle on top of the tree. Whoops. I didn't draw that very well. You know, I'm gonna rub it again. That's the cool thing. It will transfer it again. So there's my circle. Here's my triangle. Here's my triangle within my triangle. Here's my heart. Here's my other heart. Here's the circle on top of the triangle. There's my triangle, my triangle, and my triangle. And then, isn't that cool? So now I have half of my design completed. And then what I can do is then I'm going to take this quarter, and what you could do is, since you have the design on both halves, you could rub on both halves. So I'm going to check and see how well it transferred, and I can see all this here, here. The only part I can't see very well is just right in here a little bit. So I'm just going to rub that again, and then voila. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my time. These are very faint pencil lines, so you probably are thinking, what on earth is she drawing over? Because I can't see those lines. But when you do this, you will be able to see your pencil lines. And some troubleshooting tips are, if you can't see your pencil lines, it just means you need to either 1, press a little bit harder on the spot, or 2, just draw over your lines one more time to add a little bit more graphite to the paper so that then it will transfer. And boom. But this is a really fun way to be able to make sure something has radial symmetry all the way around. Okay, so check that out. And if I look, it is the same all the way around. I'm going to give you a few minutes to add some more details, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, now that you have everything drawn, you can start to think about adding color to the design of your Mexican mirror. And if you only had pencil, what you could do is you could use, I'll show you, you could, so let's say I want to color in the heart like that, and then I want to go, kind of, I'm doing diagonal lines one way and then another way. So if I did them there, and then I would continue, if I did them in this quarter, then I would do it in this quarter. And then they're in this quarter, so they're going to go to this quarter. Now, if you have something other than a pencil, you could think about either using markers, colored pencils. Crayons might be a little tricky because of the thinness of the lines, but you are also certainly more than welcome to color with crayons as well. It also might be fun if you mixed up your mediums and you could use some of both, which is kind of going to be what maybe I end up doing to kind of show you how to do this. Maybe I want to color these circles here a dark value. So I fill those in with a dark value. Just remember, whatever you do in one quarter of the design, you just need to do it in the other quarter of the design. So here's my quarter. If you happen to have markers, you can use markers. If you happen to also have, now at school, we always are really lucky to have these nice thin black Sharpies. You may, I don't know if you may or may not have one laying around your house, but if you did, outlining your shapes and your lines with a marker before you color them is just really nice because it kind of makes them pop. So that's another option. So if I outline that triangle, I'm gonna turn and outline this triangle. And notice how I'm turning my paper in different directions. When I outline, I like to kind of put the paper however is most comfortable for my hand. So I'm just kind of treating this sort of like a wheel, and I'm turning it. So I did this one, so that means now I have to do this one here. Boom. And then my last one is over here. So I'm going to give you guys some time to add color to your Mexican mirrors. And then once we finish our color, I will show you the last steps to completing this project. So just remember to keep it with the rotational symmetry. Another strategy could also be that you color this entire quarter in, and then whatever you do here, then you copy it here, here, and here. Or you can work on one part, one part, one part, one part. It is totally up to you. So I'll check back in with you once we get this all colored. All right, my friends, once you have your whole Mexican mirror design colored, then we are going to make the mirror part that is going to go on the inside. So if you remember this circle way back that we traced in the middle here, what we're going to do is you're going to grab a piece of cardboard, either from a cereal box, I think this is a Cheerios box, or a cracker box. And one of the things you can do is, if you would like your Mexican mirror to be not quite as flimsy, what I would do is, if you have a cereal box that fits both squares, you can, we'll glue them both to it. So we're going to turn this over. I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to outline around the outside edge first. So I get back to the beginning, and then I'm going to put put my glue stick in the middle. I'm going to turn this over. Give that a really nice massage. Okay, then I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to, same thing, outline around the outside edge, glue the middle, stick this down. Okay, and then let's let those dry for a couple minutes. And after they dry, what you will do is you will take your scissors and you're going to cut apart. What I like to do when I'm cutting something out is if I cut this free from all, so I'm just going to bubble around this, get rid of the excess, then it makes it a lot easier to cut out. And same for this. I might just cut off these edges. And then what you're going to do is you'll just carefully take your scissors and cut around the outside edge. So you're going to cut around the outside edge of this circle, and you're going to cut around the outside edge of this circle. Once you do that, I will tell you the final steps. All right, now I have my the background to my Mexican mirror. And then I have the part that is going to have it's going to be just a pretend mirror that we're going to use with foil. Now, typically the Mexican people, when they make these mirrors, they make them out of tin, which is kind of cool. So what you're going to do is we will take the circle template, just lay it down on a piece of foil. And what you want to do is take I'm going to grab, where's my pencil? Okay. You can take your pencil and just draw like a circle, maybe like, it doesn't have to be exact, but just a little bit around so that you have some excess foil that we can tuck under the edges. And then I'm just going to cut along my pencil lines. Now this piece of foil has seen better days because it's been hanging out in this art room area of mine and it got a little bit crinkled, but if you roll off a fresh little piece of foil from your mom's foil roll, it will look a little bit better. But you can also, the cool thing about the foil is if I smooth this with my fingers, look at how smooth. So there's a shiny side to the foil and a dull side. We want to use the shiny side. And so what we'll do is we'll put the shiny side facing away from us. And then what we're going to do is we are going to first put some glue stick on the back of our circle and then stick it down kind of in the middle here. And then what we are going to do is we are going to put some, let me roll my glue stick up. We're going to put some glue around the outside edge of this circle. Whoops. And then some on the inside. And then what we are going to do is we are going to carefully just kind of fold over the foil, working in a circle. So same with our designs being radial and symmetrical. We're just kind of twisting and turning this piece of foil over. Until voila, it's all stuck down. And then if there are some edges that aren't quite smooth, you can kind of smooth those. And now I have my cool foil piece. And then the last thing that we will do is this foil piece is going to go in the middle here, as it's sort of going to be like the mirror. So what we can do is, it's a little bit hard maybe to put the glue there. So again, we could take our glue stick, we can just outline carefully around the inside part of this circle here, and then put a good amount of glue in the middle. And then we will just center this in the middle here, just like that. Give it a nice massage, maybe turn it away from you, away from the sticky area. And from the back you can also rub it, and then let it dry. And then you have this really cool Mexican mirror, but more importantly, when you turn it, it has radial symmetry, because each quarter, so we'll go back to our quarters, each quarter is exactly the same. So I hope you have fun with this, and you can try out the technique really to create any type of design. And as always, please post your work to the Padlet on 4th grade, and I can't wait to see what you create.